So this is all about whether Facebook ads or Google ads is the right option for your business. And this really depends on what industry you're in and who you want to reach and where those people are, like who are the people that need you. This is what dictates which platform is best for you. And it's best just to get really clear on which one is best for you right out of the block, so that you know you're not wasting your time trying to succeed on a platform that just really doesn't suit your business. Okay, so first of all, just a general overview of each platform. Google Ads is based on people searching, so they already have a need for what you are offering, and that could be based on keywords. It is based on keywords, so you have to be a business that people are actually looking for in terms of they need you now, rather than they're just learning about you. So I'll talk through some great examples in a minute. Whereas Facebook ads, in comparison, is more what I would consider interruption marketing. So it's kind of like a billboard. So people are on Facebook wanting to connect with friends and family. That's the purpose of Facebook. Yet they, you know, when people see an ad on Facebook, it's kind of interrupting the feed. So you have to then take a longer approach in terms of education, building trust and all of that kind of thing. Just putting a ad up on Facebook for your services is very unlikely to work. And in some instances, I would just stick to Google completely. Okay, so when I talk about Google ads, also I talk about the little search text at the top of the page. So when we Google something, put a search term into Google, it's the ads that come up at the top and they have the little ad symbol beside them. Okay, so I'm not talking about Google Display or Google Shopping or any of that stuff in this live, just pure Google search ads versus Facebook ads. Okay, and they're the most common ones that people normally get started with anyway on the Google platform. So Google is best suited for local businesses who are providing services. So that could be anything urgent, especially. So if you're offering services that everyone knows what it is, and there's a real need for it, like people need it to be able to get something fixed or make something happen. So things like where to buy tires from, or if you need a mechanic near you, or maybe you need a plumber to fix a broken sink, like things like that, especially if they're urgent, Google Ads is definitely 100% where you should be. I would not even consider Facebook ads if this is you until you're quite far, until you've mastered Google Ads. And then even then, I feel like Google Ads is going to be much more effective anyway. If you're in e-commerce, Google Ads is definitely good for you, providing that people are actually searching for your product. So it has to be related to a keyword. What is the keyword that is going to pull people into your store? And if you're an e-commerce business with lots of different products, then there's going to be multiple keywords or multiple ways that you can attract people, unless you're just selling in one category. Okay, also Google Ads are better for any product that is focused more on corporate companies, where the people or executives in that company, you're trying to get their attention. So like a business to business setup. And these people are not the type of people who spend much time online because they're too busy running the company that they work in. So a good example of this would be people who, like operations type people, like especially blue collar industries where they don't spend much time on social media at all. If they want something, they know that they can go to Google to search for it. But it's really based on a reaction that they need something, or they're wondering how to fulfill a need. Okay, so I think male dominated industries as well are more likely to be looking on Google. You know, because a lot of these people don't even have social media profiles. So the way to connect with them is through being where they search for things when they need something. Another way that you could look at that is people that normally would like to be wined and dined in order to get their business. Obviously, that can't really happen at the moment because of COVID. So the next best place really to get in front of those people with a product or service that those people need that is fulfilling a gap for them would also be Google. Okay, so if you fit into any of those categories, then I definitely think that Google Ads is the obvious choice for you. Cool, so onto Facebook ads. Who is Facebook ads best for? For me, Facebook ads is the obvious place to advertise if you are selling digital products. So that's things like an online course, anything delivered digitally, really. An online membership, something like that. It's also best for coaches because normally if you're a coach, you need to take people through the whole funnel of getting, providing educational content and then moving them from someone who doesn't know about you to a customer, and that process can take quite a long time. You may be thinking, well, shouldn't I just go to Google and type in, won't people just go to Google and type in a business coach? Yes, but often what will happen is the local business coaches will show up, and you do not need to be local in this industry. Okay, so you can provide the service internationally from any country. So I believe that Facebook is the best place for coaches to get clients. And obviously there's usually quite a big outlay required in terms of investment. So therefore there needs to be that nurturing over time. E-commerce as well. So e-commerce is the one of these different industries that I definitely feel that should be on both 100%. Okay, so e-commerce, particularly if you have a product that is quite new and that people don't actually know what it's called, so therefore they don't know what keyword to put into Google. If there's an education component because it's so new and people haven't heard of it yet, then Facebook is 100% where you should focus your time and not so much on Google, because Google is keyword based. People have to know what they're searching for. Also, I think Facebook ads is really good for if you're a service provider and you're offering education online consults. So you're actually moving people through the process. Again, there's got to be that education part of the marketing so that people get to trust you. Okay, so Facebook is definitely the way. And what I mean by that is, say you're a naturopath, for example, and you have the ability to offer Zoom consults, but you can also see people in your clinic in the town that you're in. Then yes, you could do Google ads to show up in your local area, but you should also do Facebook ads so that you are attracting people who are able to work with you from afar. But you wouldn't just set up an ad on Facebook saying, my name is Louise and I'm a naturopath and I'm going to, I offer Zoom calls and one-on-one consults, book here. It's just not going to work on Facebook. We need an ads funnel, but Facebook could definitely work for you to help you build up, especially your audience over time. So that's another thing. Facebook ads can be really beneficial to build up your audience, whereas Google ads, it's more like they just hit your website and leave again. Okay, because there's immediate need if they're on Google, whereas with Facebook, it's like a longer burn type thing. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages to each, because I think there's one specifically that is much easier to manage and one is much harder to manage in terms of it needs a lot more time investment and a lot more work required, okay? So the advantages of Google ads is that you don't need any images or, you don't need to be creating videos and all of that stuff, which can be super time consuming and can be a bit of a barrier to entry. So you don't need that on Google ads. All you need is some imagination and the ability to write some text and some very small characters. The other advantage of Google is that there's less manual optimization needed. It can be very hands-off once you know what is working or not. And if you're in e-commerce, it works very well with Google Shopping, which I also recommend Google Shopping if you're in e-commerce. So with e-commerce, you kind of get all of the tools in the toolbox, which is amazing. So I think I answered the question there about which one is easier to manage, and it is by far Google ads. Okay, so in the first couple of months, there will be testing and optimization that is needed. But once you kind of get a well-optimized account that's got a really good structure and all of that kind of stuff, you can actually just keep it going with very minimal work involved from your end. So if you're like really wanting to save time, and you could go either Google Ads or Facebook ads, you don't have much time to spend, then Google Ads is where you're going to get the most results, the best results for as little of your time as possible, which I know a lot of you are strapped for time, so that's really useful to know. That does not mean that you can just set it up from day one and expect it to work. That's not at all what I'm saying. You need to be able to know how to optimize a Google Ads account to get it to the point where it doesn't need much management. The disadvantages of Google Ads are that it's not as advanced in terms of targeting as Facebook. Like Facebook has amazing targeting. Like we can literally target anyone based on, you know, like how many days ago they viewed our site or hit a landing page or whatever it is. Whereas with Google Ads, if you're used to Facebook ads and used to the amazing targeting on there, and you try and replicate that in Google Ads, you're going to find it quite difficult. Okay. The other disadvantage of Google Ads is that it can be super expensive if you're in a competitive niche. Say, you know, like insurance, for example, is I think the most expensive industry to be on Google Ads with, but it's also kind of necessary, right? And I've heard in that industry you can pay up over $100 a click, which is crazy. And same with lawyers. So a lot of legal firms are on Google Ads and they're paying, you know, up in that range to compete with everyone else. But you've also got to keep in mind that when you say what's expensive, that what's the payoff, okay? So if a legal firm, for example, was to convert one client, how much is that worth to the business? It would be worth thousands. So, you know, what's the cost of one click? It's all relative to the payoff. Okay, so with the advantages of Facebook ads, as I said, it has amazing targeting. Like we can literally target anybody. It has a big list of interest targeting that we can use to our advantage. We can create a more seamless ad funnel because of the tools inside of there. It's really easy to do retargeting and all of that kind of stuff, and build quite big audiences on there. So we can do retargeting on Google Ads, but on Facebook, it's a lot more easier to set up, and we can get much higher reach because, again, people aren't only coming to us if they know the keyword. They're actually, a lot more people are seeing our ads at the top of the funnel if we're putting enough awareness ads out there. The other advantage of Facebook, and some of you may think this is a disadvantage, but personally, as a marketer, I love being creative. So you can get super creative with Facebook ads. So you can be creating videos, you can, you know, be creating lots of different images. You can get really creative with the copywriting. So you can be split testing a bunch of different stuff all at once, which I recommend that everyone should be doing regardless of how advanced a marketer you consider yourself. Some people may view this as a disadvantage because you, that stuff takes time, but it can also be quite fun. So the disadvantages of Facebook ads definitely is that because it's interruption marketing, you are going to get people seeing your ads that don't want to. Whereas Google Ads is more focused on people that are already looking for you. So that means that people that are seeing your ads on Facebook are less likely to convert. Okay, but definitely, as I said, for a lot of those industries, it is the obvious choice. Where you can be more creative and provide more value and education as you go. Now, another disadvantage with Facebook ads, and it can be really ineffective if you just put up an ad and say, this is my service, book now. It just does not work like that, which means there is a lot more time investment involved, but also a lot of skill. You need to be going back in there and making sure that you're always testing, and then you've got content that you know works kind of always up your sleeve. Okay, so now I'm just going to chat a little bit about where people go wrong with both platforms really quickly. Okay, so where I see people go wrong the most with Google Ads is they don't know if they're working or not. Okay, so this can be a result of having no conversion tracking set up, because the thing with these platforms is that you have to keep in mind, both Google and Facebook do this. Okay, they push you, they give you little prompts saying do this or do that. If you do this, then so many people are going to see your ad. I mean, you all know that Facebook send you those little prompts that say this ad is performing better than 85% of the ads on your page. Boost it now to get more eyes on it, basically. Like, don't do that. Google does the same, similar kind of thing. They tell you what to do. They do not always have your best interests in mind, okay, which is why I don't really recommend listening to all of the training. Like, there's definitely good training to be had from both of those businesses, but they are making their revenue from advertising dollars, and they're not really concerned if you're seeing a return or not. So it is really common for people to do Google AdWords to say, I don't know if it's working or not. And the way that you need to find out if it's working or not, like what you're spending and what your return on investment is, or how many phone calls you've had, or how many leads you've got out of it, and what's a lead worth to your business. And the only way you will get any of that information is to make sure that you have conversion tracking set up before you even start. Like, I don't recommend even starting without either of those. Yeah, so then if you don't see the ROI and you don't know if it's working, then you just turn them off, okay? Which is a really big shame, because over time, if you can see something's working, you're getting a positive return on investment, then it's time to scale it up, not turn it off. So that's the biggest problem there. Also, not doing thorough keyword research and knowing what people are actually searching for. Also, dumping a whole heap of keywords inside of one ad group and just praying that they're going to show up. And this is a case in point, really, is because Google tell you to do this, and it just does not work. I recommend splitting the ad groups down into smaller sections of keywords. Okay, so if you know anything about Google Ads, you understand what I mean by that. People go and enough ad creative variations. I just got a wee message saying my internet's unstable, so hopefully it's going to be okay. So not using enough ad creative variations, so that when you set up an ad, you're only trying like one bit of copy with one image, and then saying that, oh, my ad didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work. You're giving it such a small chance for it to actually work, because you're only giving like one bit of creative to the algorithm to work with. So you need to be giving testing all of the time, okay? So that testing phase never really ends. And that's another thing where I see people go wrong, is not willing to test. It can be this, you have to buy data to get feedback, because that data gives you feedback of what people are connecting with. Until you get to that point, you don't know what works and what doesn't. But the brilliant thing is that over time you start to see what connects with people and be able to produce more of that kind of creative to use in your ads. And a big problem, and I've already mentioned this a few times with Facebook ads where I see people going wrong, is not having an ad funnel and not using retargeting. So this is most common where I see people boosting posts that, you know, Facebook tells us to boost them, and you're either going straight to your paid offering, so you don't have that funnel in place where you're warming people up, building audiences, and gaining attention and building trust that way, and then retargeting. So that's another no-no, is, you know, you will struggle on Facebook if you don't use retargeting, because that is where most of the goodness happens on Facebook, is with the retargeting. That's where most sales are made. It's where you can be more direct, straight to offer your product or service or whatever it is. But just don't go there right from the get-go, and do not target cold audiences with your offer, because it just is not an effective strategy. You're much better off starting off warming up your audiences in Facebook with good content that's going to build trust and make them aware of who you are. There are a few exceptions to that, but as a general rule of thumb, steer clear of that. So in terms of what you can do next, if you've listened to this and you are now pretty clear of which one will suit your business better or which one you should get started with today, I have created a couple of checklists that are actually the step-by-step walkthrough of what you need to do on both Google ads and Facebook ads in order to get started and press go on your first campaign. So there is actually a little bit of pre-work that you need to do prior to pressing go to make sure that your ad campaign is going to be successful. So this is what I do with clients, all of the steps that we work through to get all our pieces in place before we even press start. Okay, and this is going to ensure that you have a chance of being successful on these platforms, because honestly, if you skip one of these and you don't have one of these in place, then you are probably going to end up being one of those people that say Facebook ads or Google ads don't work for me, my money, and gave me nothing in return. Okay, so there is a lot more to it than just being up an ad. And I want to help you with that process. So I will share the checklist for both of those platforms down below in the comments, and you can download them. I'll just do that after this call. But thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you got value out of that. And if you let me know in the comments which one you think will be better for your business or which one you'd like to start with. And don't forget to download the checklist. And I hope you guys all have an amazing day. Bye.